Hello and welcome back to Lemmings Plus 2 Bonus Pack. So for this video we're going to be doing the reverse, flight and rush rankings. So reverse is a rank of 6 Kuroshi gimmick levels. So these are the ones where you have to kill the lemmings instead of saving them. And as the screen introduces, it's a concept that didn't really matter in the original level. It definitely does in the reverse rank. Is that if a lemming falls off the level, it does not count as a kill. Neither does if they're still there when the time limit expires, and of course you can't nuke them. The nuke does not work in Kuroshi levels. So it starts off with a fairly simple one. The next one is a little bit harder but still quite simple. So this one did originally have a more complicated solution, but it was so backrooty that I decided to eventually just leave it and make it one of the easier ones. Now there are other solutions to this. You can set up Fatal Fall over here, or you can, if you're really creative, you can sort of take a long way around and get into the water, but this is the simplest way of doing it. And now because you don't have a nuke, at this point you can't just nuke him to get rid of the last guy, so you've got to either hit escape or wait for the time to run out. So that's why that replay didn't finish with a nice remainder of lemmings blowing up. So we're on to level 3 now, which is the lemming layout. So still Kuroshi. All of the reverse levels are just the Kuroshi gimmick and nothing else. So top ones are served with a Fatal Fall. So you'll notice this level in particular shows off that in Kuroshi levels the exit basically becomes a trap. So got to bomb our last one there. That's the only purpose the bomber serves. And we've got a trap to deal with the rest of them. So we're on to level 4 now, which is the monument. So we've got 100 lemmings, we've got to kill all of them. And yeah, this one is quite limited on the skill set, so basically a matter of come across and work your way down as you're doing it. Pretty sure you could actually just like, no, actually no, because you'd need another miner to do that. Never mind where I was going with that one. But yeah, this solution is the one that's always been the main solution. So on to level 5, which is Suicide Method 1. The name's a reference to Compression Method 1 from the original Lemmings. And this is one of the more puzzly ones, and this also is a level that definitely makes use of the instant bombers, because you see after a couple go past, you bomb in mid-air so that you break through the top platform but not the bottom one. That's just that you've got some lemmings going this way, which is basically the stall tactic for this level. And you've got this little laser here at the bottom to destroy the lemmings with. And yeah, but despite only requiring 94%, that level can actually fairly easily be 100%ed, so now on to level 6, the Takeover, which is one of the hardest levels in Lemmings Plus 2 Bonus Pack. In the vote-off, it was voted the most popular level, tied with Rush 6. I'd say Rush 6 mostly got there on its novelty rather than actually being a good level, so I think it's probably safe to say this is the best level of Lemmings Plus 2 Bonus Pack. So this one involves a couple of tricks to get it working out. First one is stopping the basher mid-stroke by bombing him. That way you only have one lemming getting up. From there it's pretty worker lemming-y. Got to build over the exit. So this is another case of the exit acting like a trap. And now the other trick is to release the crowd, use a falling bomber there, which is why the position where you do the bash bomber has to be really accurate. It doesn't have to be pixel perfect, but it has to be within a reasonable amount. So Yeah, for some reason I keep forgetting to fix it and put this exit as no overwrites. That appears behind bridges you build, but it works. So, and here we have all the lemmings splashing. So we're now on to the flight ranking. So this is based on the no gravity gimmick, which is seen in Cunning 19. First level here we've got 20 lemmings, 100%. Bit of a quick introduction to the gimmick. And this is sort of your fairly easy training level for the gimmick. As you can see, if they encounter something above them, they do walk downwards along it. That was a Neo-Lemmings edition for this gimmick. Back in traditional Lemmings that didn't happen. They'd just turn around as if it was a wall. That's the first level solved. Second level is the ups and downs, and it's the only flight level that has a really large number of lemmings in it. So got 60 lemmings in this one, whereas most of the others have like 10, 20 at most. As you can see, the name comes from that you sort of go up and then come back down. And there we go. So this level's still a pretty easy one with a few different ways to solve it. Now on to level 3, which is have a nice grey. Ha, I'm so punny. This one still has a few ways that it can be solved. Now the obvious way is you sort of dig down these. But an alternative way is you just dig down this main column here. And thanks to the steel, the lemmings will be able to, they'll be at the right height for the exit. You just got to make a way to get the basher to come back up. And there we go. So we're on to level 4 now, which is Rescue Operation 13. So this one's a bit of a trickier one. We've only got 5 lemmings to deal with this time, which we've only got to save 4. The other one blows himself up here to keep the crowd in line. He builds up there and mines along this bridge to get back down. The other lemmings doing pretty much the same thing. Thanks to the no gravity gimmick here, they can mine across those little gaps as long as they're standing on something once they're actually preparing for the next swing. You don't have to rely on that, it's possible to set up the bridges and miners a bit more tidily than I did, but... So level 5, which is easy when you know me. So this is one level that is not purely no gravity gimmick, it's also got the hard workers gimmick from Genius 16, and that is key to solving this level. So the level name is a reference to that. At least back then I often made levels which rely on going outside the obvious area. Then you can see you go outside and come in from the side again, and that's how that one's done. So now on to Flight 6, Symphony in G minor. Haha, so punny again. So for this one, before we show the actual solution, it's got a secret level in it, so let's see how we get to that. Is Replay going to do anything? I think he's just slowly gaining a bit of height here. Yep, there we go. there we go. Okay, a lot of that was actually more than was necessary to reach the secret level. Could pretty much just bash out the right side and make him a climber, but anyway. So a secret level for flight is when you wish upon a lemming. So if you remember in the repeat ranks, the secret level was a gimmick level. In the gimmick ranks, the secret level is not a repeat level, but it is a regular level. So it's basically the one completely original non-gimmick level in Lemmings Plus 2 Bonus Pack. So basically it's just a restrictive skill set worker lemming type level. It's not a overly difficult level. One thing to keep in mind is you do have to go along the top, because you've got this one-way wall here which obviously you can't get over with climbers. You can't go under it or anything, so you've got to go over it by coming from the top of the level. And yes, we've got to let him catch up since this is a 100% level. Okay, so now back to Symphony in G minor, and let's see how it's actually solved. Use a bomber to trap them in there. Now this is actually how this level was originally solved. Now, because under Neo Lemmings, the lemmings will just walk down there. If you position things right, you can avoid having to go to such a complicated setup, but it does require a fair bit of precision with the moves, so this is still the easier solution, I think. I don't know. Your mileage may vary on that one, but is he going to explode? Yes, there we go. They seem to have delayed that nuke a bit for some reason. Okay, so with that out of the way, we're now on to the Rush rank, which is... Rush is basically Frenzy level, so if you remember Floater Frenzy, how it wouldn't let you pause, Rush is basically based on that, but not all the levels are based too closely on Floater Frenzy, it's just a no pause thing. So first level, okay, introduction. First level is Flashback Frenzy, which is like in the original games We All Fall Down, except you can't pause. And you've also got a fairly high release rate to deal with. I mean, this level could almost have been called Digger Frenzy, but except you don't have to make every lemming dig by using the little trick of let them walk off while one's digging. Okay, so we're now on to level 2, which is Buildo Frenzy. So this one's basically Frenzy and longer version of the Buildo Station from Lemmings Plus 1. And it is nice enough to initially put the release rate high enough for you, but it's basically just a long run of building over every gap. So basically just build a frenzy with a fancy name, Buildo Frenzy. With that, we're on to level 3, which is Floater Frenzy Perfect Edition. It's a repeat of Nice's Floater Frenzy level, except with a 100% save requirement. So yeah, it did pick one of the easier Floater Frenzies to do this with, but it's still a pretty annoying level. So it's one of the two Rush levels that is very closely based on Floater Frenzy. The other one is Rush 5, which we'll see soon. And 2 more levels. So now up to possibly the most unique of the Rush levels, which is Super Lemming 2 Desert Quest. And yes, it is Frenzy. You cannot pause on this one, as well as having to deal with Super Lemming mode. Where's our replay for this? So it's quite a long and complicated level. In pre-Neo Lemmings it had a very tight time limit. More recently that time limit's been loosened up a bit, so I mean the solution's execution is still pretty tricky. I have tried to avoid too many pixel precise or close to it moves in this level, but there are a few places where you've got to be pretty precise with your skills. As you can see, if you came down to here in the first place, he'd drop straight through into the gap, but since he'll need to be a climber by the time he comes back, you can't go down there again, so that's when you've got to use that bit. This digger has to be quite precise so that you can keep going all the way down without hitting the steel but without leaving a pixel here. So this level was actually remade for Licks at one point. I think it was Nepster who remade it, and the name of the remake was One Licks Showdown. And apparently, despite looking very different, it actually kept more or less exactly the same solution. So yeah, I haven't actually played that level myself, because back when it was made, Licks wouldn't work properly for me. I have no problems with getting Licks to work now, but I'd quite plain and simply forgotten about it, so I'll have to hunt that level down and have a look at it at some point, but this is another one that has to be fairly precise because you've got to reach the edge, or at least this pixel here, but not actually turn around because there's this trap here. So that's Super Lemming 2 Desert Quest. And yeah, definitely a challenging level. So we're now on to level 5, which is the other one that's somewhat based off Floater Frenzy. This one is Athlete Frenzy, and exactly as the name suggests, it's like Floater Frenzy, but you've got to make them climbers as well. So originally, like back when the very first version of Lemmings Plus 2 Bonus Pack, this level actually had a release rate of 85. That was pushing it a bit too much on the difficulty, so I reduced it to 75, and the level's not so bad now, but it is still pretty tricky because of the need to constantly switch between the skills. You can see I've used a different amount of climbers and floaters, so that means I've missed a couple somewhere. And so we're now on to the final level of Lemmings Plus 2 Bonus Pack, which is Bomber Frenzy. So you may be wondering why bombers are necessary in this one. This is actually a mega gimmick combo level, which combines 4 gimmicks in one. It's got Frenzy, Super Lemming, Kuroshi, as you can see from the To Be Killed, and Unalterable Terrain. So it's basically sort of stress relief almost final level, where you basically just hit them as fast as you can to blow them up. And if you blow up enough of them, you'll pass. Obviously you've got to get them before they get to the exit there. And there we go. So that's all of Lemmings Plus 2 Bonus Pack. It doesn't have a congrats type screen at the end. Bonus packs generally don't. So hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time when we'll start on probably Lemmings Plus 3. I might do Holiday Lemmings Plus first. We'll see what I feel like, but one of the two, probably Lemmings Plus 3. So till then, have a good day. Oh yes, also I finally started that playthrough of Copycat Lemmings, so check that out as well if you like, and yeah, see you next time.